Hi, my name is Robin Dupree, and I'm a psychology major with a focus in Christian counseling here at Liberty University. I've always had this deep desire to help others, especially those who feel stuck emotionally or like no one really sees or understands them. That desire didn't just come out of nowhere, it was shaped by my own experiences. I faced emotional struggles in my life and spent a long time not knowing how to deal with them or where to even begin. And that's why I feel called to do something meaningful. Whether that's becoming a social worker, therapist, or even a life coach, I just want to walk alongside people and help them find healing and a purpose. For me, this is more than a career goal, it's a calling. I know firsthand how life changing it is to finally feel seen, supported, heard, and understood. And I want to help others experience that same breakthrough. These kinds of careers would allow me to support people through deep emotional struggles and offer hope for healing because of what I've gone through myself. This work is more than a goal, it's a calling. I know how powerful it is to finally feel seen, understood, and supported, and I want others to experience that same freedom. One area that I really stands out to me is adolescent trauma, especially when it goes untreated. So many people carry pain from their teenage years, which quietly shapes into adulthood. Their relationships or how they see themselves, often without realizing it. This leads me to my research question. How does untreated trauma during adolescence influence adult attachment styles and emotional regulation patterns? This question really matters. So many adults, myself included, walk around with emotional pain that traces all the way back to those early years. But instead of healing, we try to cope with distractions or unhealthy habits, things that only make the pain worse. And when we don't get to the root of it, that cycle just keeps repeating, often being passed down to our kids and the next generation. Imagine what could happen if more people understood where their pain was really coming from. We could start breaking those cycles instead of repeating them. We could raise a generation that knows how to heal instead of hide. That's why this research hits so close to home for me and why it's so important. To better understand this topic, I looked into several scholarly sources that really helped shape my thinking. One study by Baumeister, 2016, I apologize if I got the name wrong, found that people who went through childhood trauma actually had signs of long-term inflammation in their bodies. That inflammation affects more than just physical health. It can also mess with your mood, energy, and emotional balance. It's wild to think that trauma can sit in our bodies like that, but it really shows how connected the mind and body are. X 2018, again, I do apologize for the names, did a study in China with people dealing with depression and other mental health challenges. They found that individuals who had trauma as kids or teens were more likely to have suicidal thoughts and less social support as adults. That hit hard because it shows how trauma doesn't just fade, it affects how we connect with people and how we see the world. Then McKay 2021, they ran a big study that followed people over time and found a strong connection between childhood trauma and adult mental health problems like anxiety, depression, and emotional struggles. It confirmed what I already felt deep down. What we go through as teens really shapes how we function later in life. And lastly, um, Guyen and Tran 2025 explored how childhood trauma shaped adult behaviors, especially in entrepreneurs. They found that unresolved trauma can affect personality traits like how people handle stress and make decisions. Again, pointing out long-term emotional effects of trauma. So all of these studies came together to show how real and lasting adolescent trauma is. It's not just emotional, it affects relationships, health, decision making, and overall sense of well-being. Based on what I've learned in this course, I believe the best way to explore this topic is by using qualitative research, especially semi-structured interviews. According to Crawford 2023, qualitative research is super helpful when we want to understand people's personal experience in depth. It lets people open up their own words and really share their stories, which is especially important when we're talking about something sensitive like trauma. The APA Publication Manual 2019 also talks about how people need to follow ethical guidelines, especially when our research involves vulnerable people. That means making sure we protect their privacy, treat their stories with respect, and always honor their emotional limits. There are definitely some strengths to doing interviews like this. For one, they give us rich, detailed insight. You're not just looking at numbers. You're hearing someone's voice, their emotion, their real experience, their story. You also get to follow up and ask deeper questions, which can help bring out even more clarity. Of course, there are a few limitations. Interviews can take a long time, and you can't include as many people as you could with a bigger survey. And since everyone's experience is so different, it can be tough to apply the findings to a larger population. Still, Crawford 2023 explains that when done carefully, qualitative research is incredibly valuable, especially when the goal is to understand emotional and personal experiences like trauma. Now let's talk about reliability and validity. Reliability is about consistency. If someone else did the same study, would they find similar results? That can be tricky with qualitative research because stories are so personal. But we can improve reliability by being really careful with how we collect and analyze data, like checking our notes, recording the interviews, and being consistent in how we ask questions. Validity is about whether we're really measuring what we set out to measure. In this case, that means making sure our interviews really capture the connection between adolescent trauma and adult emotion patterns. The more we stick to the participants' words and let their experiences lead, the stronger our validity will be. In qualitative research like this, validity is strong when we stay close to the participants' actual words and keep their experiences at the center. Reliability can be more difficult because personal stories are always unique, but using careful methods like checking your notes and documenting can help with that. The APA Manual 2019 also reminds us that research should be trustworthy and transparent, not just something. That's something I would absolutely keep in mind if I were doing this project in real life. If I were going to carry this project out, here's what I would do. I'd look for adults who self-identify as having experienced trauma in their teen years. I would invite them to take part in a one-on-one interviews. Nothing pressured, just a safe space to talk about their emotions, their relationships, and how they've learned to cope. Or maybe still struggling. That's okay too. I'd ask open-ended questions, listen carefully, let them lead the conversation to make sure they feel safe. I know it can be emotionally tough to talk about the past, so I take special care to respect their boundaries and provide support. I'd be intentional about protecting their space and their story. After gathering the interviews, I would use thematic analysis to look for common threads in their stories, like struggles with trust, emotional control, or relationship patterns. This method helps researchers notice patterns without losing the individual's voice. To wrap up, my research question is, how does untreated trauma during adolescence influence adult attachment styles and emotional regulation patterns? I apologize. I'm like running out of time and I'm like nervous, like trying to speed up. I'm sorry. The best method to explore that is qualitative interviews because they let people express their stories fully and honestly. Even though there are challenges like emotional sensitivity and limited participants, the knowledge we gain could help future counselors, therapists, bring healing not just to individuals but to families and future generations. Thank you for listening to my presentation.